Howdy, with this video, I want to go over the career essay in a little more detail. I want to look at a sample essay so we can kind of see what we're getting into here. The sample essay is located under help resources on the content page for the course. So I'm just going to download that. And hopefully by now you've done the journals and watched the videos. But just want to take a look at the sample essay, show you what I'm looking at, why I picked it. One, just kind of notice generally the MLA formatting is correct. Last name, page number, and header. His name, my name, class, section number, and then the date. This is a dual enrollment student, so his approach to his career is going to be a little different than yours might be. Just kind of depends on where you're at with everything. And that's kind of the neat thing. Everybody's essay is a little bit different, right? But here he's going to start talking about it being a high school senior nearing graduation. Starting to get into section 1 here. The process has involved advice from parents, guidance, right? When you're a high school senior trying to figure out what you're going to do for the rest of your life. It can be a lot of pressure, and it certainly is for him. But now he's going to get into why he wants to get into engineering. I have witnessed the amount of joy I find when dealing with mathematics and the interest I possess in viewing how small components combine to create one magnificent piece of human achievement. I've decided that mechanical engineering best suits my desires and hands-on learning style allows me to find enjoyment in a long-term career. That's kind of his thesis right there, right? With this essay, we're not doing the 5-part essay. The thesis should be somewhere in that first section, but it may not be exactly at the end of the first paragraph or anything like that. But you want it to be pretty obvious what your thesis is. This is kind of an argument essay where you say, hey, I have a plan. Here's what I'm going to do with my education, my certifications. Here's the career, here's how I'm going to make myself marketable. So you're kind of arguing that you have a plan and you're on the pathway to success. Here he gives a brief definition of mechanical engineering. If you've watched that MLA video, you're going to see this as a summary or paraphrase. Probably a summary, it's pretty short. But he's getting this information from somewhere, and he's going to cite the source of that information. Then he kind of tells us after reviewing all possible schools, he's going to go to UTK. Be careful, don't just say UT. UT in education field means University of Texas, which is a bigger college than UT Knoxville. So make sure you got the K in there. And he wants to be a mechanical engineer. Being close to Oak Ridge is going to help him out. Eventually he wants to go work for NASA, which we'll find out later on. But now he's going to get into section 2 of the assignment. He's going to start talking about his goals, what he has to do to get into college and all that fun stuff. Right, they just don't let anybody into UT Knoxville, certainly not into the engineering program. And then I'm not going to read this whole thing to you. You can read faster than I can talk. But notice he's citing sources as he goes along. Here he's talking about all the courses he needs to complete, and he's given the citation. That should match the first word on the works citus page, which is mechanical right here from the University of Tennessee. And they'll kind of start noticing how that MLA formatting works within this essay. And then he's given information about what you have to do to get that degree. Then he's going to start talking about licensing. Just because you get your degree doesn't mean you can go out and claim you're an engineer, right? He also gives his academic plan. He has to do a little explaining here because he's a dual enrollment student, so some of the classes that you'd expect to see on the academic plan aren't going to be there. And that's what he's doing there. But we're going to put the academic plan as a table into the essay. That's why we're doing that academic plan first. Excuse me. But he had to go to the UTK website, find that listing of the sources, listing of the classes. And then he lists them semester by semester in the order he's going to take them, at least his best guess. For those of you who just dealing with your 2-year Northeast State degree, you should probably be a little more accurate about which classes in which semester. But he's kind of projecting ahead a little bit and making sure he's going to be going full time so he can keep his scholarships and stuff. You see that last semester is only 12 hours, so he's cutting it close there. But he's got a plan. He gives credit for the source of that table, which is probably going to be the UT Knoxville catalog. And then he's going to talk about the cost for UT, and that's what he's doing there. and yeah, there he cites the source down here. I'm sorry. So he's kind of got a paraphrase going there, giving us quite a bit of information in his own words and sentence structure, and he's citing that. But kind of notice as you read through the sample essay, he has the required punctuation in there. He's citing his sources. There is one problem with this essay. You might pick up on it. He starts talking about the pay that he might make, and he gives the information right here, but he doesn't cite the source of that information. He gives a long quote afterwards, discussing more about the career, getting into section 3, but he doesn't cite the source of this information. It's probably coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. He's not deliberately plagiarizing or anything, but he needs to be a little careful there. Make sure you cite the source of that paraphrase before you move on to the long quote. Notice he's still citing using the first word on the works citus page. And then, again, talking about the career, what can you look forward to, and things like that. Then he starts saying, well, hey, if things go well, I'm going to go work for NASA, and he gets into the information there. Again, everybody's going to be a little bit different. Not all of us want to work for NASA. I certainly shouldn't be working on rocket engines and things like that. But that's kind of what he wants to do. So, okay, how are you going to get there? How do you make yourself marketable for something like that? How do you get into that field? Internships, externships, what kind of additional training is he going to need? And just kind of getting into that kind of information. Good example of a short quote there, using that with those brackets to show a change to a quote. I thought not sure where he put his ellipses in there. They're in there somewhere. I saw it before I started the video. Anyway, but you see the 3 dots. That's him taking something out of a direct quote. Should be in a short quote or a long quote. He's going to talk about the pros and cons of the job. Obviously, if you make a mistake as a mechanical engineer, bad things can happen. So he's going to kind of get into that a little bit. Talking about travel and just kind of the career in general. Getting into how to make himself marketable. Again, the cons of the job, the pros of the job, and the career field. What can he do if NASA doesn't hire him? Kind of sideways mobility, upward mobility, all that kind of good stuff. And that's about it. Then you have the works citus page listing the sources he uses in the essay. Again, you can see as you read through the essay, you're going to see him using the first word on the works citus page to cite the sources. Kind of interesting, none of his sources have authors. I mean, surely somebody wrote it, but the authors aren't listed. So you can just start with the article title when you get into that. But notice he's completing all 4 sections of the assignment as given. Section 1, kind of the introduction and thesis. Section 2, education, certifications, all the things you need to do before you can even apply for the job. Then he talks about the career, then talks about making himself marketable, the pros and cons of the job, making sure his personality, his physicality is suitable for the job. So that's kind of what we're looking to do with the essay. Again, everybody's a little bit different. Not all of you are dual enrollment students, obviously. Not all of you want to be mechanical engineers. So each one's a little bit different. But notice how he gets very specific about what career he wants to get into, so he can research that in detail. If you're going to get into nursing, what kind of specific branch of nursing are you going to get into? Or welding or anything. Almost any career requires some kind of specialization. So you want to make sure you're examining that within the essay. And make sure when you give information, you respond to it. If you say it's going to cost me $130,000 to go to UT Knoxville, how are you going to pay for that? I mean, if your parents are independently wealthy, that's awesome. But for a lot of us, paying for college is a challenge, unless you're on Tennessee Promise or Tennessee Reconnect or something like that. So make sure you're kind of accounting for those kinds of things. And the other problem is if you're on Tennessee Reconnect or Tennessee Promise, and what happens if you get to that last semester and you can't come full-time, or you don't need a full-time load to get to your degree? That's kind of what that academic plan is going to start getting into. But I'm going to hush up there. Obviously, if you have any questions as you start to work on your own essay, you're going to ask them. But we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.